8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. There it is, right on time. Thursday night. We're doing a Thursday night Tropic Talk, ladies and gentlemen. Tropics Talk, I should say. Good evening. Thank you all for joining me tonight for our Thursday special edition of Tropics Talk. I don't know why, but I'm feeling nostalgic today, and I don't know how many folks who are going to be watching this after the stream or who are tuning in now who are gamers, but I've been hooked on this familiar sound from a game I used to love playing back in the day. That's going to be our official introduction for the Thursday night Tropics Talk. Welcome in, guys. Kevin, yep, definitely saw that. Shared it on my Instagram and said, here we go. I said, that's it. Now the whole internet's going to be ablaze. And it's funny how my views are now going back up again because we have something to talk about. New AOI in the Southwest Caribbean. Good evening again, Miss Leah. Devil Charger, you made it in. Good Lord, excuse me. I don't know what's going on. Devil Charger, welcome in. Nomad Cat 4, good evening. Linda, good evening. Zarko, yeah, they did mark it. Yes, Nomad Cat 4, welcome in. Sharon, welcome in from Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Thanks for joining. The GOAT himself, Nazario, the man, the legend, my weatherman. Hey, I appreciate that. I salute that. Thank you very much for that, guys. So we're going to get started here in a moment. Obviously, we're 60 seconds into the stream. We'll let some more folks join us. We have quite a bit to cover tonight and some very interesting trends. I can openly say, after reviewing what I've been seeing over the last 24-ish, 36 hours, I'm a little bit more on board now with there being a possible tropical entity down there as opposed to anything non-tropical or very weak. There haven't been a tremendous amount of changes, but there have been enough trends to suggest that we do want to investigate the possibility of a cyclone forming up. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, you know, we definitely have quite a bit to talk about, and I've been looking at a lot of things in between work and weather, so it goes without saying, if this sums up the kind of day I've had, it is 8 o'clock at night, and I'm sipping on a cup of coffee to make sure I can get through this live stream and kind of function with all the brain power I have left inside. Who else we got in here? Zarko again. Hey, you Nomad. Janice, welcome in, darling. Good to see you as always, although I feel like you probably should be getting some rest instead of tuning in for a live stream, but you know what? I'm not going to argue. Yep, I saw something scary, but it's hard to keep my faith with me. What should I do? Yep, what do you mean by that exactly? You talking about the storm? Alfalfa Bill, GFS has a Cat 4. Yeah, you know, I will show you something tonight that is going to be very, very interesting. I'm sure you guys are probably going to be like, what in the heck? Because I know I sure as heck was. This reminds me of Hurricane Lenny. See, you know, I've been seeing that, and I don't know. I don't agree with that. It's definitely not going to go, it's not going to go east. It could go north and then northeast, but it's not going to go way out there to the Eastern Caribbean. It's just not going to do that. There's no way in heck, and we're starting to see that in a lot of our trends, and it's making sense. That's why with every video I put out on this this possible system, I'll say, I always like to look above the ground level, because a lot of people love to fixate, and you know, they look at the mean sea level pressure, and they see a low, and they're like, oh snap. Punch the alarm. Here we go. Tropical storm. And it's like, well, hold on, guys. We got to look at all levels. And we have to see exactly what the overall atmosphere is doing before we hit that panic button, especially for the folks who, like Alfalfa pointed out, like a few others have pointed out, talking about Cat 4 for Jamaica. Like, let's calm down a little bit and let's do some analysis. And that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. But here you have it. We're still somehow, you know, I'll openly admit, before we get too deep into the stream, I have officially eaten my words, and I can humbly admit that. I didn't think we'd be talking about another yellow blip on this chart. I will personally admit, I definitely wanted to write this hurricane season off. I'm definitely astonished. I mean, was the evidence there? Yes. Was I fully on board with it? You know, not necessarily a tropical system, but some kind of a system, you know, a low pressure area, absolutely. But, I definitely didn't think we were going to have an area of interest out there once again, and now maybe even a future invest area. 98L, which would be this one. This would be another 98L if we do see something down there and we start to investigate it. So lots of information to cover. There's also something funny trying to spin up in the Gulf of Mexico too that's really going to up our rain chances. So we'll see what happens. That's definitely not going to be tropical. That is 175,000% not going to be tropical. It's the tail end of a front, and it's attached to a trough in the upper levels. So good stuff out there. It's definitely going to help us with our drought, especially I noticed with the updated map, there's a lot of I'm talking real severe drought going on right in through here. Those conditions are just marinating over the Louisiana, Mississippi. It's bad. And now we have a lot of rain falling out there in Texas. I can pull up the radar, so we have that rainfall pushing in. So the relief is literally on the horizon. But that's not going to be tropical. We'll talk about that a little bit because it could potentially increase our rain chances here in the Sunshine State, which is a beautiful thing, to tell you the truth. I'm excited for that myself. I'm tired of having to crank the sprinklers every freaking day because there's just no rain out. I mean, I love the sunshine, but, Let's see who else we got. Yes, please hit that like button. This still has me quite worried. No, don't be worried. Zarko, you're out in Puerto Rico, right? Jamaica here, GFS, always a bully. Absolutely, yeah, I don't trust the GFS. I really don't think it's going to be that crazy. But I'm going to show you something that is very, very interesting. Let's just say one of our more reliable models is kind of jumping on board the GFS train, the GFS bandwagon, and wants a little bit of attention. Let's see, yellow good, red bad. Yeah, we're kind of looking at it. That's how I like to progress these little blobs on the chart. Yellow is like a, okay, you have my attention. Orange would be more of like a, okay, so we're getting we're getting into the weeds now. Let's talk about this. Red is, okay, guys, so now we got to start looking at the possibility of having tropical storm X, Y, or Z on the horizon. And then obviously once it's classified, we all know the drill from there. It's prepare this, prepare that, etc., etc. So, yeah, I don't think this is going to turn red fast, though, Zarko. I don't think so. I think this is going to definitely be a gradual process. We're not looking for cyclogenesis or for anything to form up down there until as early as maybe the 14th. So we still have about 5 days to go. I'm glad they highlighted this, though. I'll tell you the truth, because a lot of people were predicting that as we went into this weekend, we were going to see it highlighted. But truthfully, even though I wasn't on board with a tropical system, I think I even mentioned it yesterday that we should have something highlighted any moment now. So, Michael Anthony, thanks for joining in from the Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands, you guys got to watch this for sure. Cayman Islands, Jamaica. I'm not going to go as far as to say Cat 4 run, but I'm going to say, we definitely got to keep an eye on this. So, models, once again, too aggressive. Like, actually, you know what? These are definitely not that aggressive. These have been very progressive in this case. Sure about that? That season is over. If we get a system on December, I'm going to hit menopause hard. I gotta screenshot that. That's funny. Current forecast shows no rain until late next week. Why is there rain in Texas? Oh, well, that's interesting because we've had forecasts. Are you talking about like the local forecast? Because the models have been calling for this surge of moisture for a while. No, Nomad Cat 4. I'm a little astonished that we're even exploring the possibilities that this thing is going to turn east like that. There's no way. Absolutely no way. If we saw this thing turn way east in the Caribbean, I will literally just close up shop. I will mark my words. If this thing suddenly goes east, I will shut down my YouTube channel. Not even joking. That's how confident I am. Let's go ahead and let's get started now. All right, we'll go to the 18Z GFS. We'll get the worst one out of our system. So as we already know, here we go. Got cycle. One thing I will admit, though, is the GFS is slowly but surely getting on board with the rest of our models. Slowly. Because that's another thing that had me very, very kind of upset, is a lot of people were jumping on the GFS bandwagon and talking and, hyping it up like we got to watch out. But if you go back to, let's say, Monday, and you look at this, look at when the GFS wanted this thing to form. It wanted it forming on Monday. Next Monday. But then if you come over to, say, the likes of the European model, for example, at 12Z, look at when we're expecting cyclogenesis on the Euro. Right about there. You see that? Right about on the 17th or the 18th. So huge difference. Huge difference. And sometimes I wonder if we're really, for those of us who pump out weather content, if we're really cross-referencing and initializing these models and whatnot. because that right there is a huge misnomer to me. If I saw one model forecasting for an event on the 13th and then another model forecasting for an event on the 18th, I would either, number one, say we're looking at two different possibilities, or one of them is entirely out to lunch. And given the fact that the Euro has also been predicting the 17th and the 18th alongside the Canadian, alongside the UK now, alongside the Icon, and so on and so forth, I'm going to rule out the outlier, in this case, the goofy forecasting system. But all right, so let's go back to the GFS, because I know everyone loves the GFS. Let's go ahead and watch Death and Destruction, Doom and Gloom. Let's go ahead and run it through. See, this is interesting too. Look at that. Over the Gulf Coast, we get a little bit of a low that spins up. And the reason I say this isn't going to be tropical, because once again, if you come up to the upper levels and you go to the vorticity, look at that major shortwave trough coming through right there. Coming out of Mexico, coming out of the desert Southwest, moving across Texas, driving our thunderstorm activity now. And that's a direct reflection of it down at the surface. That's not tropical. So, cool to look at. We might try to see something very, very, for like a brief second, maybe, try to spin up into like a little bit of tropical thunderstorm activity, maybe. But that's also what's really helping to fuel our thunderstorm activity down there. And then there it is. You got a Cat 2 rolling a rapid, and you saw that rapid intensification. Look at that. We went from a 988, 986 down to a 967 in one panel. And you guys trust that? We're expecting, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, with the ocean heat content, obviously that's possible in 6 hours. We've seen it. It's done. It's been done by Mother Nature. But in this case, in this setup, when you look at the wind shear out there and you think about all the other dynamics, we'll go over to the relative humidity content and just look at how much dry air is around this thing. You know, like, do I think that this thing's going to bomb out and explode? No. Am I on board with something tropical at this point? You know, yeah, I could buy it. You could convince me. But then there you go. It blows up, and then it does some weird stuff out there. It gets hung up in the pattern down all the way to a Cat 4, just to the north of Puerto Rico, and then keeps moving out like that. And the reason I don't see this happening, first of all, is because look at how, you know, it's not even handling the progression of our systems over North America very well. Look at how fast, if you guys look up over the United States, look at how fast that front comes in. Hyperspeed front yet again, and blows everybody out of the, or blows everyone out of the water along the East Coast, and that's what supposedly picks it up and moves it out like that. Well, then take a look at that. I didn't even notice that before. We got another little El Nino system moving through right there. I wonder if that's going to initialize. Look at that. I know this is 18Z. Take it with a very big grain of salt, but there's another El Nino system moving through the extreme southeast. I wonder if that's on the Euro at all. Let's go to 12Z. There's the first one, and nope, no second one, but it doesn't go far enough out. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Then we have the Canadian model. The Canadian model is picking up what the Euro is putting down. You go through this loop, and you see, there you go, our next little wave, or whatever you want to call it, in the Gulf of Mexico, giving everybody some good rain, possibly making it all the way through to Florida. We'll see about that. And then there goes our system. And notice how, even on the Canadian model, how it kind of jumps back like this. It goes this way. Jumps backwards. So, of course, it gets close to PR. Yeah, but you don't want to look at the 18Z GFS. You don't want to look at the 6Z. You don't really want to look at the 18Z unless you're, first of all, looking at something that's already in existence, for starters, something that's within the first 2 to 3 days, maybe, 72 to 96 hours, and if all the other models are verifying with it well. That's when you want to pay attention to it, and, you know, you want to kind of consider it, be confident with it. Otis had ocean heat content, good outflow, and basically non-existent shear and very warm SSD. This Caribbean system doesn't have those ideal conditions. In reality, yeah, no, the only thing it has is the ocean heat content. That's the only thing. We have the ocean heat content, maybe some marked moisture down there. That's about it. But, you see on the Canadian model, it's picking up the same thing. It actually moves our next frontal system at a much more realistic pace, too. Here it is back here. And this is why I think it does have the opportunity to move further to the west. Because here's our Atlantic high pressure trying to sneak in on the right-hand side of the chart. And if you think about it, your path of least resistance, as I like to always say, is right in through here. right in through there. I'm not calling for a Florida landfall or anything like that. All I'm saying is it has the opportunity to jog a little bit further to the west as opposed to the east. If this holds true, a lot of our models really want to accelerate the speed of our frontal systems coming across the United States. But the big thing we have to look at is what our upper air pattern is going to be doing. So let's go there real quick before we transition to anything else. There's a couple of other interesting oddities I want to show you guys. So here we are. We are in a very meridional pattern midway the run, and then as we get towards the back end, we're still in a meridional pattern. Oh, that's 18Z, excuse me. Let's go to 12Z, meridional. Yeah, see, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think this is going to change. I do believe this is going to change because they're moving this long wave feature way too fast. You have our subtropical jet here. We have our polar front jet there. With as meridional of a pattern as we do have and as strong of a jet max the Euro is predicting, that trough is going to deepen and it's going to slow way down before it continues to move off to the east. And I think that's why the control model of the Euro has something totally different. So anyways, let's go to the icon real quick. Let me clear my ink. Icon showing the same thing. There goes our little low pressure system coming out across the Gulf of Mexico. It's kind of neat here too on the icon model. You can see where you have that vorticity dropping rain over northern Mexico, and as it comes across that little tail end of our front there, you notice it kind of works its magic and immediately creates a spin. You see that? So cool. So cool when you can analyze that stuff and see it verbatim. And then that's 18Z. You go to 12Z, same picture, same spiel. There goes our system starting to form up. You can kind of already see that wind shear is kind of acting on it too. Look at how it's all east side loaded. All the precip is being elongated this way. And then you have a very quiet west side of the storm. And then look at that over Florida, a little blob of energy. Yeah, here in a moment we'll go to the trade winds. I checked the El Nino forecast and chances for a neutral phase next year increase substantially. Yep, I saw that too. Several channels that tomorrow are going to put warning Puerto Rico Cat 4 coming with everything in their thumbnail. Probably, unfortunately. And see, I'll tell you right now, Zarko, if there's anybody who's really going to put a whole lot of energy into warning Puerto Rico is me. And I think I've told you guys that before because I have so many older relatives out there who, you know, have lived through very bad hurricanes, and they actually watch my content on a regular basis because they want to know if they're going to have bad situations. And if I'm not putting a whole lot of Puerto Rico look out, then, you know, I don't know everything. I'm not the best. I'm not a 30, 40, 50-year-old or year-long forecaster or, you know, experienced meteorologist, but, you know, if I saw the probability of my family members down there taking a hard hit, I'm going to say something. So, you know, it goes without saying. And right now, I just don't see it. I'm just not seeing it. JNSI. I thought this was interesting, too. I pulled up the nav gem. I never look at the nav gem. Never at all. But take a look at how even the naval model is on board with a little system getting going down there. And it kind of wants to track it a little bit further to the north, almost due north as opposed to northeast. It's very interesting. And you know, it lines up really well with our Canadian model, too. If you look at the outlay of their let me get another sip of coffee real quick. There we go. If you look at the overlay of the synoptic pattern, we have a very similar setup to this as we do on our Canadian model and our Euro model. And just looking at this right out of the gate, I would want it to do that. That's exactly what I would predict. That'd be my forecast. Just looking at this static image right there, that's exactly what I'd have it do. This is where it gets really interesting, guys. So here's our 12Z Euro. 12Z Euro doesn't go out as far. There you go. Have a 1,002 millibar depression, weak tropical storm headed right up towards the Jamaica. And now, see, this is where it gets funky. This is where it definitely gets funky. And no, I have not been to Puerto Rico, unfortunately. I don't. What am I saying? I have not taken advantage of going down there just yet. But now I can type delayed response here. Yes, I should be getting some rest, but I never miss your live streams. Oh, well, I sincerely appreciate that. That means a lot. Definitely. Trust me, it does. I know you've had a very, very long couple of days recently, but it still means a lot. You're bringing in the energy, and I can feel it emanating in my direction. But this is where it gets complicated, guys. Because here's a front, here's a high pressure right there. And then here's a weak frontal boundary right there. So the only direction this thing has to go is right there. That way. It won't oppose the flow. If it opposes the flow like this, it's going to kill itself. And these systems are not, I'm not going to make that joke. That's really offensive. They're not going to go crazy and go into headfirst flow and destroy themselves, for lack of a better term. I was going to say something so bad, but I'm not going to be that, politically incorrect on a live stream. What, I've been here a few minutes earlier, but we still cooking after being delayed because I had to deal with EMS and police because I got hit by a dog. You got, bit by a dog. Kevin, how are you doing with that? Is everything okay? It's been raining fat here. Oh, yeah. You guys are seeing the tail end of that frontal energy right now. Aston, good evening. Welcome in. That's what forecasting is. If you're not for local news, try to cover more places instead of Florida or wherever you are. You're doing great, Florida man. Oh, well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. But here, this is the operational Euro model for 12 Zulu. It's been very consistent. I agree with this. A very weak system, kind of right side loaded because of the wind shear out there. Makes sense. This is where it gets very, very spooky. Where is it? Dang it, I blew the suspense. Again. Hopefully you guys weren't paying that much attention. But this here is, if you follow me on Instagram, spoiler alert, you already know what's coming. But this here is our European control model. And what that means is basically, is you take all 51 members of the European model at 12 Zulu, and you put them together in a fancy conglomeration, or a summary, if you will, of what makes the most sense. And we all know the Euro is one of the more reputable models, so when you take all that information and consolidate it into your control member, this is your most likely outcome, because it's taking all 51 members, kind of, if you want to use your imagination, you're kind of sitting them all down at a conference table, and they're all discussing what each 51 members of that group survey or whatever have come to conclude in their forecast interpretation, and at the end of it, they put on the big screen the control member, what their most likely agreement is. Watch this. Take it through time. There goes our low, forming up, 17th. Heads up towards Jamaica, hooks to the west, and then turns into a major hurricane. That has my attention. I don't trust this. I put like 10% faith in this. 10%, because it is the Euro control model, and I put a little bit more confidence in that westward shift than I do in the intensity. You come back to 0Z, let it load. There goes our system taking off, and look again, you can see moving to the west. So the trend in the track is there. The trend in the track is there. You go back to 12 Zulu yesterday, and there it is again. See that, guys? Comes up, moves to the west. So that's why I'm a little astonished people are thinking it's going to move to the east, because there's a lot of parameters and a lot of dynamics synoptically and in our models that are suggesting this thing is going to start moving to the west based on the layout of the atmosphere, especially in the upper levels. So that's been trending. As a matter of fact, let's go back even further than that. I didn't start looking at this until yesterday afternoon, but even on, this one has it moving all way off to the east and then dying. Very interesting. So this one does have it moving to the east. Let's see, did that trend at all? Let's go back to 12 Zulu on the 7th. Yeah, nope. So I wouldn't even trust what that 08 at 0 Zulu did. But this is really interesting. That's crazy. That's definitely crazy. I really wish that we had more of the control members to look at, but unfortunately we don't. Only control model we have is the mean sea level pressure, and that's all we can get out of it. So very interesting. That took me by surprise. That definitely took me by surprise. I was anticipating to simply see just another little bit of that westward shift, and that was it. But when I saw, when I saw it go all the way down to a 950 some odd millibar hurricane, That's really bizarre. That's definitely very bizarre. Because, I want to say that there really isn't a whole lot of possibility that this bad boy can strengthen that much. But I got to admit, if it does stay down in this general area long enough and we allow that shear to drift to the north, it becomes a little bit more of a probability. It definitely becomes a bit more of a probability. So I'm definitely watching this. I'm not taking it with a whole lot of faith right now, but I'm definitely glued to this ensemble product. Because I trust the ensembles way more than I trust these operational models. And I'll take that to the grave. Ensembles, I'll say it again. I've said it in other videos. I said it earlier this afternoon. Ensembles are your best friend until we have something on the map. Period. Ensembles will make the most sense because we as human beings can go in and manipulate them and help put in our 2 cents to get the most accurate information, at least as best as we can, accurate being relative, because this is 360 hours into the future, but at least you have scientists hands-on adjusting the data, as opposed to our operational models. You plug in that cardinal hour analysis and you just let it run. You just let it run. You don't do anything else. You just let the model do whatever it wants to do. So until we have a system out there, I look at ensembles first. Big time. Always. So this was very interesting. That has my attention. I'm a little concerned that the Euro is doing that, albeit we definitely saw it bust big time with Tammy. Tammy was one that was projected to go Cat 5 and hit Puerto Rico. Zarko, I'm sure you were tuned in for that, and that didn't happen, thankfully. But that was also the operational model. This is the ensemble showing something different. This is where we get hands-on and can tailor what the models put out. So, very interesting. We come over to the probabilities. I liked looking at these two, and the probabilities haven't really changed a whole lot. They've been capped at about the 65 percentile for a while, 65 percentile for a while. You go back to 0Z last night and see that same thing. It stays right at about 65%. And then tapers back down. General consensus being somewhere in this general area is going to be the track, right in through here, somewhere. Let's go back to 12 Zulu yesterday. Same thing, a little bit. Now, this is also a little concerning, truthfully. And again, I could be out to lunch on this. This could be just a subtle shift in our model data. But the ensembles, if you notice, a couple days ago were very solid in this happening. Just it getting launched straight out of the Caribbean, headed towards Bermuda, no harm, no foul. I think it was the same thing at 0Z the other day as well, on the 8th. Yeah, see, so again, we haven't seen the probabilities go up that much further, but if you take a look, a lot of the ensemble models think that this was our general track. We had more agreement earlier in the models than we do now. Because notice the trend here. If I go ahead and let me highlight it with my pink pen. I love my pink pen. Here's where a lot of our probabilities are thinking that this system could track just using the shading. Just using the shading. And then if I switch my color and I go back to my cursor and we go to 12, look at the difference now. This has my attention. Now I'm going to switch to yellow, and this is where we have our track now. Much larger margin of error, but I'm really starting to notice a trend that this thing could possibly go west based on our upper level steering pattern. So it's definitely, we're not out of the woods. We're not out of the woods, and I definitely think we should be emphasizing a bit more of a westward fetch than we should be emphasizing an eastward fetch. Because realistically speaking, climatologically speaking, since we don't have a system out there, we only have two directions it could go, honestly. And this is as very, very black and white and very, I guess you could say, very superficial of me to say in a forecast. But climatologically speaking, if you go back and look in the history books for November, majority of our hurricanes do this time of year. So there's, you could always go and, do the science and just say, the historical route, okay, it's that's probably a most likely track. You can also look at what our synoptic pattern's doing and make a case for something like this. And if a front picks it up, it could do something like this. Early models on the GFS were showing that it could possibly swoop up to Florida. It was calling for another landfall. It's too early to start making predictions about it going like this or going like this. Way too early. We need the system. We need the system out there first and foremost, and we definitely need to see what's happening over the United States and out over North America before we start trying to think it's going to do something funky. So right now, the more confident routes are west or north. And that's where I sit right now. I can believe either of these. I don't see anything just yet to suggest that it's going to go off to the east like this. Nothing yet, anyways. So we'll see. Let's see what else I got for you. Here we go. So here's our Euro ensembles for 12 Zulu. Very good agreement that it's going to track straight up and through. But then notice how we have a lot of our models, or a lot of our model members, I should say, splitting the difference now. We have very good confidence it's going to do something like this, but we also have a nice channel of models that are doing this. I probably should have used a different pen. Here we go. Let me use a different pen again. A lot of models doing this now, or ensemble members doing this. So we're splitting the difference again. We're splitting the difference once again, and that's why I'm paying attention to this. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Very, very, once again, this model is definitely, not model, excuse me, this hurricane season is once again throwing some loops at us again, being very mysterious, very spooky, even though we're well out of, Halloween time. But you never know. This could be a tropical resurrection, and then we're finally big time done with the hurricane season. Heck yeah, Ethan. Thank you very much for tagging me, dude. I'll go ahead and check that out as soon as we conclude this live stream. These systems have been dodging Puerto Rico this season. We're very blessed. Margaret, I absolutely agree. That's why I've already put out a little preliminary look at what next year could look like. Punky the Mixed Dog, have a good night. Go ahead and take care of your business, dude, but thank you for tuning in nonetheless. Nazario, can you go to CONUS and second temp anomaly and go to the 290 plus hours out? Yeah, sure. Let's do that real quick. What was the last panel I had for you guys? Oh, the UK model. Yeah, the UK model. Wanted to show this really quick because UK model has something starting to lift up too, and the UK model has it lifting kind of like in this fashion. And yeah, see, even looking at this right now, as this thing gets moving, it's going to get pulled westward because this is going to look like I'm just making stuff up, but I promise I'm doing what I can do and what I was trained to do in the military. But here's a front right through here. There's a front moving right in through there. Here's all of our streamlines indicating cold air advection. Very, very powerful, high pressure. You can even make a case that front goes all the way back up and through here. So there's our boundary, and you have all these prevailing easterlies right in through here. There's a call in the winds right here, big time call. So that's your delineation between air masses. So there's your boundary right in through here. So if this thing moves up, let me clear this ink. If this thing moves up, it's going to want to go that way. If this pattern holds, because we have a mid-Atlantic high on the UK model here, and that's where we're getting all this anticyclonic flow, and there's our boundary that's driving the system up to the north, pulling it out of the Caribbean, or I should say out of its source region in the southernmost Caribbean, pulling it towards Jamaica, and I think that's why the Euro also has it kind of marinating somewhere around the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, and then as our next frontal system comes through, what happens is this high pressure begins to evacuate to the east, allowing it a chance for it to finally wander in that direction, because we have a path of least resistance that's opening up for it, and then that next frontal system wants to boop and send it back this way. That's my early interpretation of what we have going on across the spectrum, both in the upper levels and in the low levels. This is the 850 millibar level, so you could kind of get a pretty good indication of what's actually happening out there in the environment. And the Korean model had something interesting last night at let's go down to the surface level. Actually, no, we'll leave it right here. That's fine. We'll leave it at 850 winds. So this was 0Z last night on the Korean model, and take a look at what the KMA had. KMA had a big system kind of bowling balling down there, or billiard balling down there. It was moving to the east, and then boop, got bounced off and went to the west. at the last second. Very organized system, kind of like a la GFS. Very consolidated system, kind of doing a number one of those for some strange reason. And then I noticed that 12 Zulu today, when I glanced at it, it got rid of it completely. So, believe it or not, the Korean model of all models doesn't want anything to form up. You can kind of see it getting going right there, right at about the same time as the rest of our models are thinking, the 17th into the 18th, but then it gets crushed. It moves into Central America and then washes out. So, I mean, I don't know. But once again, if you look at this, even with this pattern here, if it doesn't wash out, look at this very, very intense frontal line up here. And look at how the prevailing wind flow is like this. So that thing's going to get pulled up, move like that, and then whoop, kind of doing that. That's what I wanted to show you guys. I wanted to show you we'll go to the GFS ensembles because this is funny. This is why I don't put a lot of faith in our main GFS run right out of the gate. Because if you look at the GFS's own ensembles, it's totally different than what the actual model is calling for. Very interesting stuff once again, though. I'm going to tell you right now, they are not for the faint of heart. Let's go ahead and take a look. Where are they? 31 ensembles, GFS, and let's go to, what do I want? We'll go Southwest Atlantic. Now, this might be hard for you guys to see, but we have all 31 members of the GFS here. This is your control member, just like we had with the European model, and then you have all of the individual ensembles showing their output for mean sea level pressure. And if you go through time, here's the 14th. Now, if you guys remember, this is what I find very funny. If you guys remember, the GFS was already calling for a tropical storm, if not a low-end hurricane, on the 14th, if not on the 13th. And if you look at all the ensembles, even the control member, there's nothing on there. So something's wrong here. It's either the GFS is out to lunch or its ensembles are, and I'm going to go with the GFS being out to lunch on this one. So very interesting. And as you continue this through time, there you have it. Now we're on board with the rest of our models. You can see the control model at the same time as all of our other models are thinking we could see cyclogenesis on the 17th into the 18th. And then take a look at what a lot of our models do with it. I know it's hard to picture because, there's so many of them moving at the same time, but a lot of the ensembles for the GFS do either have it moving straight up and out, or it has it boomeranging back towards Florida or trying to make a run for the Gulf. So very interesting stuff. I really wish I could. Can I zoom this in at all? Can we zoom in? Aha. Wait. Nope. Wait. Nope. Now it's getting tiny. What did I just do? All right. Gosh, I wish I could show these individually. Is there no way I could look at them individually? What a bummer. Oh, well. But anyways, if you go up to the control member and you just look at this one up here, top left, strong system forming up, very strong. Oh, this is 18Z. Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa. So 18Z GFS ensemble members are looking at trying to make this thing run for the Gulf a little bit more so. The control member has Florida back in a landfall. If you guys look real closely, the control model has a major hurricane landfalling Florida. Now again, disclaimer, because I need to put it out there. I wish I can put it in bold print on my live stream. I'm not saying that that's the end result. I'm not saying that is what's going to happen. But very interesting that now the control member of the GFS is ebbing with the control member of the Euro guys. Very interesting. This is why I like to look at this stuff. This is why I really like to look at this stuff. Far more than I do at the operational models. Because, yeah, look at that control member. The control member does almost, dear God, the control member of the GFS on this model run is almost a spitting image of the European model. And dear Lord, we're going, because this is technically our Friday night Tropics talk, but we're just doing it on Thursday, so you know what that means for my regulars in here. We got to hype up a little bit, and I'm going to hype for a second. That control model is worst case scenario for Florida. If you watch that closely, that thing blows up in the Caribbean, hits Cuba, plants itself in the southwest portion of Florida, and then scrapes through the state. It's like it wants to eviscerate the state of Florida. Makes landfall just to the south of where Ian and Charlie did, almost in that same general area. Brooke, if you're in here, I do apologize for that. Again, I'm not hyping up a landfall. I'm just saying what our control model is doing right now. And then you take it through 336 hours, it's over central Florida. 348 hours, it's coming back off the Big Bend area of Florida and then moving into where Idalia hit earlier this year. Yeah, exactly, Pierre, exactly. And you know what? That makes sense. I can see that happening. Not literally that's what's going to pan out, but just looking specifically at the control model and what the synoptics are doing around it. Look at this massive high pressure here. And I know this is probably very hard for you guys to see, but look at this mid-Atlantic high pressure right there. And that makes a lot of sense. This is why I'm thinking we can't rule out this thing trying to move a little further to the west. Not calling for a Florida landfall. I'm just saying, in terms of who should be monitoring, let's put it that way. In terms of who should be watching this system, whatever it decides to, do, these are the areas that need to be watching. I think we far more need to pay close attention to this in Jamaica, in the Cayman Islands, towards Central America, Cuba, the Bahamas, and then maybe Florida. But I think the further east you go, the Antilles, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, you guys don't have to worry too much. You guys are at about like 30% of the spectrum. We'll even say 20% of the spectrum in terms of it going that far to the east. We would need to see a huge pattern shift for that to happen. So right now, I'm definitely thinking that Puerto Rico and further to the east, you guys are cruising right now. You can kind of just keep one eye on it. For our folks in the Dominican Republic, Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Cuba, Central America, unfortunately, and Bahamas, and then dare I say it, because we have a lot of members starting to kind of come in our direction, Florida may actually need to watch this one. Florida may actually, and again, when I say watch, it's more so just keep an eye on it. We don't have anything out there yet. We're only at a 20% chance of development. We're going to wander back down from hype world, the hype universe, and mention that, even though we have agreement, we've busted on these things before, there's nothing set in stone. These are just my very, very early preliminary, hey guys, we should maybe take a look at this. That's all. Like, how can you even maintain any sort of infrastructure like that? Dang, Puerto Rico would be deleted, and this may happen on my birthday. When is your birthday specifically, Brooke? I mean, I guess you don't have to disclose that in the chat if you don't want to, but dang, I really want to zoom in on this. Let's go to the actual GFS ensembles and take a look real quick. We'll go 18Z, and let's see what happens. Oh, yeah, look at that. Wow. I wonder if this is going to trend now. Look at that. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. That's some consolidation in the ensembles for 18Z. Wow. Now, that's very interesting. It's like you guys notice a pattern here. 6 and 18 seem a lot more in agreement and in a lot better of a fashion than our 0 and 12 do. Because take a look at 0. Look at the mess that they are. 0 is a huge mess. Look at the margin of error here from here down to here. But then if I switch over to, we'll go to 6 Zulu, for example. Look at that consolidation. That's very interesting. 6Z is a lot more better and more accurate, we'll say, than our hot model runs. You do the same thing. Let me clear the ink. You go to 12Z. Look at that. Look at that mess. You go to 12 Zulu. I'll do my drawing in black again. Look at 12Z, the spread. And then go to 18Z. Look at that. That's a big difference. It's like 6 and 18 are actually a little bit more, I'm not going to say reliable, but, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word right now. Forgive me. But then look at how they're consolidated in through here. They're better furnished, we'll say. Let's put it that way. Because typically when you have ensembles doing this, just going crazy, it goes to show that even that the model in general doesn't have a whole lot of confidence in it. It doesn't have a whole lot of faith in it. Not necessarily precise, because again, these are long-range ensembles. So I wouldn't say precise. I wouldn't say consolidated or concentrated. They are literally, but they're more better furnished. They just seem a little bit more confident. They seem a little bit more, I still can't think of the word. I'm not going to say reliable, but there's a word that's like literally right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it. But, yeah, I've never seen that before. Instead of 0 and 12 being the more reputable looking ones, I guess you could kind of say more trustworthy at first glance. That's really interesting, though. But notice that the ensemble members are definitely big time showing something like this. Whoops, I definitely messed that up. I ran into my coffee mug. Notice how our ensembles now are showing that little bit of a westward shift. So maybe I'm not as out to lunch as some people would like to think I am. Because I'm noticing that. The GFS is actually noticing that. A little bit more of a northward push. In fact, we only have so many ensemble members taking it into Jamaica now. There's only maybe like 5 or 6 of them, and a large majority, 60 to 80% of the ensemble members either give them a close scrape, a close shave, and we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ensemble members into Florida now. And you saw the same thing on the European model a little bit ago. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. We'll go back to parameter. Go back to the cyclones. We'll go to tropical Atlantic. And you go to 12 Zulu again. And you see that we still have a pretty big conglomeration going over Jamaica as a 980 to a 999 millibar low. So tropical storm to a low-end hurricane. But then look at the number of them that actually do try to make a run for the Gulf and try to head for Florida or something like that. There's a number of them on the Euro as well. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, week 1. Oh, and then 6 right there, 6. So, which affected Florida as a remnant low, Nomad Cat 4 Paloma. I got to look at that. Is it possible to have a backward storm like Lenny in 99? Margaret, I don't think so. I mean, it's always possible, but in this case, you can kind of see the general trend here is either going to be up and out or actually coming back for the Gulf of Mexico. Which is very bizarre because we're not really expecting shear to go down in the Gulf of Mexico. We're really not. Unless that starts to change. You see, even the 0Z ensembles with the Euro, you guys probably can't see that, but there's a very, very big number of them that come up and then go boop like that. There's a good chunk of them right there. You guys, like I said, probably can't see it on your screen. It's much smaller, but there you go. Thank you, Sharon. I guess you could use that term. You have a better consensus, a better feel. They have a better vibe about the way they've consolidated their ensembles. I could use that word. You have a better general consensus with your ensembles. Like look at look at that. That's some pretty good confidence in the GFS at 18Z. Like if you had to draw the classic forecast track from the Hurricane Center, you'd probably put it somewhere right in through there with the margin of error being over Florida and then back over Cuba. Because then we only have 1, 2 ensemble members that actually go east. Whereas if you were to base a cone or a cone forecast off of off the 12Z, you'd have a cone this big. That'd be your cone at 12Z, so it looks a lot more like you have a better consensus and a better feel for everything at 18Z and 6Z, which is very bizarre. You don't usually see that. It makes you wonder if 6 and 18Z are onto something as opposed to our 0 and 12, because, yeah, there's your... If I were a National Hurricane Center folk and I just had to forecast something down there off these ensembles, that would be my projected path right there, with a margin of error as far east as the Turks and Caicos, Cuba, maybe getting very close to Haiti, going over Jamaica, and then as far westward as Central Florida, West Cuba. So this is wild, guys. This is rough. I'm not really going to, truthfully, because of how crazy this is looking, I'm not going to make any real major preliminary guesses with this. My early guess, the most detailed I'm going to get with this is we definitely shouldn't rule out that westward shift, or I should say that more northward shift if we're using an actual compass rose. Because technically going from this to this would be, instead of east-northeast, more north. So I definitely think we can't rule out a more northward bias. Let's put it that way. Oh yeah, Sharon, I agree. Earlier, I think it was an early run of the GFS that was actually predicting something coming up towards Florida way back in the day. Let me see. I think it was, let's go back to like Friday of last week. Kind of sort of like that. I think it was even earlier than this. Let's go to Thursday or Friday at 0Z. Maybe it was 0Z. Nope, that was a bad one. Let's go to Saturday at 12Z. I know one of these. Yeah, there you go. This one of the earlier runs of the GFS, I was actually hoping for this. I was rooting for this, and I still am. I really am rooting for this system because with as rough of a Gulf of Mexico we have out there, I don't think we're going to see anything explode. There's definitely, we're cooling down. The Gulf of Mexico is starting to get a little cooler now. If you come over here and you take a look, you can see that we are definitely dropping the temps. See that? Now this is anomaly, so it's not the actual temperature. I'm sure that we could still support a system out there. If you come over here, let's go there. So yeah, I mean, we're right on the threshold of, if we had something wander in there, if it tried to do a South Florida approach, then yeah, it could hold its intensity if the shear was okay, and if we don't have a lot of dry air up there as well. But if it were to try to punch north like Adalia did, that thing's going to suffer. It's going to suffocate, suffer, and die. So Gulf of Mexico is not nearly as ripe anymore. It would have to do whatever it can in this small window of time where we still have even 30-degree Charlie temperatures down there near the Caymans, Jamaica, and the rest of the Central and Southern Caribbean. So, you know, we have a decent area for this system to try to get going, especially if our shear can continue to ridge to the north. That general spot where my pink circle is, if you guys can see it mixed in with the surface temp colors, it's going to be its best chance. That's definitely going to be its best chance. Other than that, you know, if it goes any further to the north, the Gulf of Mexico is going to kind of be working against it than it would be working for it. Because we need about 80 to 83 degrees Fahrenheit for a tropical cyclone to form, let alone strengthen and or maintain its intensity. And I can't convert right off the back of my hand like that. But let me see. So 26 plus 30, then you do the conversion. I want to say that's somewhere right on that threshold of 80 to 83 degrees. Let me go ahead and take a look real quick. Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. 26. So actually, yeah, 26 degrees would be down to 79 degrees. So we're barely squeaking. We're barely squeaking into that. If it goes any further out of those 28-degree waters, so that would be its zero barrier right there. Right in through this general area is its zero barrier. Once it gets out of that, if it takes this track, guys, once it gets past that line at 28 degrees, it's going to have to fight for its life, especially as it gets further and further up to the north. Hypothetically speaking, you know, if it did do that, I'm not really putting a whole lot of faith that we're going to see a full-fledged organized system do something like this. That's definitely way out there in the realm of my possibility, or in the realm of possibility, in my opinion. I'm not forecasting that at all. The main thing is, whatever does try to disturb itself, see what I did there? Whatever area of disturbed weather decides to come this way, I'm rooting for it to do something like this as opposed to something like this. It just seems more viable that it would either go north-northeast or maybe try to do a bit of a northward bias and then kind of turn out. So that's my preliminary take on it. Look at that. I timed that perfectly. It's 8:54. We got 6 more minutes of the stream, and I finished my coffee. And tell me how I'm so hooked on caffeine, I'll still be able to knock out right after this. Arturo, welcome in. We are looking 2 weeks out in this forecast. Remember, 97L was supposed to be something scary 2 weeks. Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying, you know, I'm not trying to get too heavily into the weeds with talking intensity and track. We do have a fair bit of confidence in the initial phase of it, the first 48 to 72 hours, that something's going to try to come up out of the Southern Caribbean. And then, in my opinion, I could see it being a bit more reasonable for it to jog north and then maybe even north-northwest as opposed to eastward. That's as far as I'm going to go in terms of my projections because, yeah, we're still at least 6 days maximum out from this thing even forming. I'm not going to try going and mentioning that this thing is going to Cat 3 or, Central Florida, nothing of that. No. And for those of you watching after this, I want to put that disclaimer out there. I'm definitely not going that far into the weeds and trying to mention specific intensities or landfalls. We're just fully speculating because of the trends that we're seeing. And, we did look at the GFS. The GFS is doing its GFS-isms, of course. Not really making sense. Has a system forming down there on the 13th and the 14th and then spinning up and coming back to the east. Even what it's doing here doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know what this deterministic model is doing. It's going right towards a high pressure at this point in a run. Look at that. It's going right into that Bermuda high. That doesn't even make sense. So, I don't know. Oh, God. Yeah, there you go, Brooke. I'm glad that you can ebb and flow with me as well in that department. Dang, I finally got back to boxing again recently, and I have such bad scapular soreness in my right shoulder blade. You have no idea. Tomorrow's going to be a rough workout, and it's back day, too, so that's a whole lot of retraction and protraction, so we'll see how that goes. If I don't show up for a video tomorrow, I died. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. No, it's not that bad. Ooh, pink drinks are pretty good. I like the pink drinks. I was just recently introduced to that. Zarko, being out in Puerto Rico, I would imagine that you need some of that Café Bustelo in your life right now. That's the PR stuff right there. Janice, if you're still in the chat, maybe you can chime in on that too. But I know my family and other relatives love their Café Bustelo for sure. That's one of my favorite coffees. I just use our Nespresso machine because it's easy. How's it looking for the Cayman Islands? Melita, Cayman Islands definitely need to be on guard. Not really on guard, like we're talking Mike Tyson peekaboo, but I mean just kind of like, weary, that we have something that's going to track in your general direction. And it could possibly head in your general direction a little bit more than some of us are leading on to, especially the Canadian model. You come over here, let me go back down to that neck of the woods, and the Canadian model is ebbing and flowing with what I'm seeing synoptically. It forms up, tries to pull north, and then see that kind of plants itself right over top of you. It comes up and then does this number. Whoop. Kind of goes back to the north and then north-northwest, and that'd put a tropical storm on your doorstep on the 19th of November. So way out there still, so that's why I'm saying, we got to just kind of keep up with this thing, just keep an eye on what our trends do and where it's expected to go. Big thing is watching the upper-level synoptic pattern because that's going to dictate the steering flow, what's happening down at the surface, and where our shear is. The shear is going to be the number one component here. There she is, Janice. Yep, the best. The best! You got to have it darker, too. If you water it down with a bunch of sugar and creamer and all that, it kind of takes away from that Bustelo flavor, I feel. Now I'm addicted. Well, I missed your comment. Where did it go? My mom would give me café con leche in my baby. That's awesome. That's extreme Puerto Rican right there. I love that. Show us the gains. I'm not going to do that on stream. I'm going to lose all my subscribers. We're getting into uncharted territory. If you follow my Instagram every now and again, I go ahead and I post something along the lines of a gym little clip in the morning. Maybe I'll share one tomorrow. Back day, or I should say my pull day is my favorite day of the week. For me, if I had to break it down, and I know Janice and we've chatted about the gym on and off over there. If I had to do my top 3 workouts, first and foremost, pull day. I don't know what it is, but I love training back. I love training traps. I love training rear delts. So much fun. I don't know what it is. It just gives you the best pump, in my opinion. A close second, believe it or not, are glutes. I love training my glutes. I love hip thrusts. I love abduction exercises. I love kickbacks. I love Romanian deadlifts. I love the regular deadlift. I'll openly admit I can see the attraction why women love to train their glutes so much, because it's an astounding pump if you hit them right. be doing like 5 sets of 10 200 some odd 300-pound hip thrusts, and woo, you're going to walk around like Kim Kardashian for the rest of the day, let me tell you. But anyways, sidetrack, let me go catch my brain and reel it in real quick before we finish the stream. Major hurricane impact in Jamaica at landfall. I don't know about that. I don't know about, major hurricane in Jamaica. I think we got to pump the brakes on that. We definitely got to pump the brakes on that. I don't trust this. I do not trust it whatsoever. We'll get a better representation of what is actually going to happen according to the GFS when we get to about the 13th or the 14th, maybe the 15th. I only do squats, but my back has been ruined lately. How come? What's going on with it? Talk to me a little bit about that. Or if you have an Instagram, follow me on there, and I could try to give you a little bit of advice. Too much information, TMI. I'm just saying, I like training glutes. Oh, and then my last muscle group that I like training is legs. Legs is fun. That's where you get a lot of your punching power. So, yeah. Little sidebar note for those of you Weather Center viewers. Weather Center Nazario likes to train his glutes, his back, and his legs. Fun fact for the rest of your day. Or night, I should say. But alrighty, folks, unless you have any last-minute questions, we're going to start wrapping up the live stream. It's that time of the night. And I think we covered our bases pretty good. We have a good layout of what's happening, and we'll just kind of bring it back into the National Hurricane Center's homepage. And, if you look, the general consensus is it's going to be all sorts of ambiguous with what it does with its track. I think this page, I could probably zoom in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Now we can see it a little bit better. Yeah, that would probably do the trick. GFS just loves to jump scare a lot of us. Yeah, I think GFS has been playing too much Five Nights at Freddy's. Time to scoot. Thanks for the updates, Nazario. Sharon Jackson signing out. Sharon, you have a great evening. We'll see you guys tomorrow for our 6 p.m. update. There will be no Tropics talk, unfortunately, because I'll be out doing familial business, getting ready for Christmas and whatnot. A lot of us are going to get together and either go shop for decorations and or start putting decorations up. So that's kind of the main reason I wanted to jump on here tonight, make sure that we got our 3 live streams in. And of course, if something big changes, I will try to force a live stream in there one way or another. If not, I'll backpedal or I'll back it up by doing one on Saturday. So. Well, yeah, no, and I was on board with that. If anything, I would think that they would have highlighted something depending on their confidence level. So it goes to show that National Hurricane Center is starting to up their confidence a little bit about, something forming down there. But, so yeah, we'll see. No Tropics talk tomorrow, but we will have our 6 p.m. update, that's for sure. And I promise I'll have my camera charged so that way I'm not sounding all Terminator-ish. I was kind of frustrated with that. I saw the video upload and I watched it back before it went public, and I'm like, why do I sound like the T-1000 from Terminator 2? And that's because I was recording off of my phone and the mic simultaneously. And, yeah. Unfortunately, the audio is kind of all dorked up, so I do apologize for that. I'm sure people are probably roasting me in my comments section right now, as a matter of fact. I know some people were already bringing it up. And, it's all in good fun. I still wanted to make sure I got the update out to you guys, so. But, yeah, so that'll just about do it. I know, right? Part of me wanted to leave that in there and try to build it into a positive, like, at least it sounds kind of cool. Sounds like a robot talking to you guys or something like that, as opposed to just, Weather Center Nazario. Maybe I am a part of the Matrix. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. I wish. This could be a significant hurricane rainmaker for Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Rainmaker, yes. I'm not on board with a hurricane. I'm not on board with a hurricane yet. You got to twist my arm a little bit more to get me on board with a hurricane. Rainmaker, absolutely. Thunderstorms, 110%. Some elevated winds with it? Oh, big time. But am I thinking hurricane right now? You got to twist. You got to twist. Both the models and you guys got to twist this arm to get me on board with a hurricane. Because I don't think we're going to get that far with it. Which is why I was taken aback when I saw the Euro ensembles today. I thought that was really intense, that it was going all the way down to a 950. That's wild. We're definitely going to have to investigate that, because there's a reason that the Euro puts that out there. There's a reason, and we got to find it. So we got to go play National Treasure now with all of our model parameters, which is exactly why I have my little handy-dandy notebook and why I like to take so many notes. How strong do you think it would be? Daniel, early analysis, I would say right about where we sit with a lot of our models, I can agree with. About, like a maybe mid-grade tropical storm. Low-end tropical storm, kind of sheared, kind of disorganized, kind of like what we've seen with a lot of our systems this year. I could buy into that. That's why I'm like really not leaning towards hurricane territory yet. But we still have a lot of time to investigate, a lot of time to get a better handle on it. This is very preliminary. We just had it highlighted, so there's still a lot of stuff to come. So we'll see. I was saying that also, but I still appreciate the update. Oh, of course, Melita, it's my pleasure. But okie dokie, guys. When is cyclogenesis and a broad low pressure supposed to build in the Caribbean? So right now, I would say we could see it as early as the 15th. We'll start seeing some thunderstorm activity down there, and by the 17th and the 18th is the general consensus where we could finally have our closed low. So right now, I would say we could maybe have our invest forming up by the 17th, depending on when those thunderstorms get down there, because that's going to be the kicker. I think I mentioned it yesterday. Once we start seeing a lot of that moisture influx bombarding Central America again, that's when whatever is going to try to spin up down there is going to show itself. So once we see those thunderstorms beginning to pile up on the Centam coastline, that's when we know we need to watch the Southern Caribbean. That's going to be how we extrapolate it forward. Significant strengthening is not likely right now. Not right now. We have too many things working against this. We have dry air coming in from the north, and we have a lot of shear just above it. There's a very small pocket for this thing to spin up, and it's really going to depend on how quick it decides to shoot to the north. If it goes too fast, it's going to die. If it can take its time and kind of marinate over those waters a little bit, and then we can see it try to consolidate a little bit more before it goes up. But right now, I'm definitely not saying rapid intensification. Not saying rapid intensification. If anything, Jamaica, Cayman Islands need to watch out for a low-end tropical storm at best based on what we have in front of us right now. I'm not trusting the GFS. GFS is way too intense with it right now. So we'll see. 30-plus inches of rainfall likely. I don't know about that either. It's still way too early to start calling estimates. So yeah, anyways. We'll see. Regardless, though, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Cuba, even all the way up into Florida should at least keep one eye on this. Jamaica, Cayman Islands, even Haiti, for an instance, should definitely keep two eyes on it. Because you guys are, just like I was saying with Central America and 97L, it's going to you guys first. Everybody else is kind of, speculation, but it's definitely going north. So you guys are going to be the first to see whatever the heck this thing decides to form up. I agree, Zarko. Next GFS run is going to take it to Spain, and then somehow it's going to go across the Arctic Circle over to Alaska. But, alrighty, folks. We'll see you next time. We're going to do our 6 p.m. update tomorrow afternoon, early evening time. That is guaranteed, but today will make up for our lack of a tomorrow night, Friday night Tropics talk. But if something does break out and there's more important information to cover with you guys, I'll either backpedal and try to do, I don't know, some kind of revision to my video or drop a comment in my video, or I'll force a live stream in there somewhere. And if not, we'll go ahead and do something first thing Saturday morning. We'll try to do a quick little live stream before whatever plans I have going on that day can unfold. It's looking like maybe a beach day, so we'll see. But I'll make it up to you guys one way or another. Take care, Chad. Take care, Chad. Yep, Zarko, we'll see you next time. Grace hit us with a tropical storm but did unexpected damage. Yep, Melita, that's why I'm watching. It's definitely why I'm watching for you guys. Cayman Islands, Jamaica, first and foremost, are the big ones. This is Ethan signing out. All right, guys. We'll talk to you very soon. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday evening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. We'll see you for our next full segment of Weather Center. We definitely got to keep our eyes peeled. Hurricane season still wants to kind of play some tricks on us. So we'll see what happens. Still up in the air. Still a lot of time to investigate, interpolate, and analyze. So, we're in a holding pattern once again, just like always. But we'll see what happens, guys. Until next time, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.